Lincoln has just unveiled a brand new Nautilus for 2024, and this is a pretty substantial redesign of this car, and I actually really like it. So what we're gonna do in this video is have a look at the front, side, rear, and the interior, and compare the old one to the new one. Let's see what's new here for this Nautilus. But before we do that, let's have a look at this motor1.com article, and I'm gonna link it down in the description if you want to go and check it out yourself. So the new 2024 Nautilus grows in every dimension. Is both wider, longer, and taller than the previous one, although it doesn't really look taller. I'm gonna let you know why when we look at specifically the side view here. So Lincoln built a housing deep in the dash for two 23.6-inch displays, and this interior, I'm not sure what I think about it yet. I think this is one of these interiors that I actually need to sit in myself and experience and then let you know what I think about it. But I'm still gonna get my initial thoughts on it here, specifically when we compare it to the current or 2023 Nautilus. You also have Apple CarPlay, Android Auto, and Amazon Alexa for additional info. And you have an 11.1-inch touchscreen, complements the two big screens. So I don't think that you have like a speedometer up there and then you have an infotainment screen and this screen 11.1-inch that you have right here. I think this is the one you use to change stuff. I doubt you're gonna have to reach all over the dash and try to like fiddle around with the screens that sits up there on the dash. I don't know yet. I don't think that's a touchscreen. That would be very interesting to handle. You have two new powertrains. So the first one is the turbocharged 2-liter 4-cylinder shared with the Corsair. The standard engine packs 250 horsepower and 275 pound-feet of torque. An 8-speed auto is standard and all-wheel drive is standard as well. And then you have an optional hybrid powertrain. Combines a turbocharged 2-liter with a CVT, a 100 kilowatt electric motor, and an unspecified battery. Produce a total of 310 horsepower, which feels pretty substantial for this type of package, which is nice to hear. And you also get it with 21 or 22-inch wheels. Way to go, Lincoln. You obviously need an option for the 22-inch. Fill out those wheel houses nicely and plant the car. And it looks really good on the 22s. And I also love the wheel designs of Lincoln. They do very good looking, like turbine aviator-inspired wheels. So the production of the Nautilus for 2024 is moving to Hangzhou in China from Ontario, Canada, because they're sharing a platform with Ford, the Ford C2 platform, which is also built in China. So I guess makes sense to bring the Nautilus over there as well. So let's have a look at the front view and the design of this front view, side, rear, and the interior and see what's going on here. So when I look at the old or the current Nautilus, I always thought it was a really handsome looking car. Lincoln in general, they do very good looking SUVs, and that has all to do with the roof line, and that is implemented even harder in the new one. We're gonna have a look at that when we look at the side view. But looking at the old one, I love these graphics. They're very clean and crisp graphics, very simplistic design where all the features are exactly where you expect them to be. You have the headlights up here, no weird headlights in the bumpers down here. Fog lights as well down here at the very low end of the bumper. And you also have a pretty decent looking solid bumper that kind of stretches from one end to the other and separates the top graphics to the lower graphics. And we also have this grille, which maybe this is the one thing that wasn't really a fan of. This mesh texture here feels like it's almost rounded or something, stretched out. Looks a little weird, specifically in chrome. Maybe if it's blacked out, it will look a little better. But we also have these indents here in the grille, creating this trademark, I would say, for the Lincoln and its grille. Having a couple of these in the front fascia of every single car is very important to separate yourself from other brands. And in this case, we have this little dip in the grille, separating the Lincoln from numerous other brands having a very similar grille. Then the lower part looks very traditional as well. Now look at the new one here. They really went all out with the redesign of this thing. And the first time I saw this just a couple of minutes ago, I looked at this piece down here, and it instantly reminded me of, I think it is the Mustang Mach-E that has similar fins like this in body color that kind of covers up the intakes on the side and make it look a little EV-ish when I look at this from a front view. But then you also have the big massive grille still with the identifier right here. You can see that this piece is still intact, body colored, cutting in to the lower part of the grille. And I think the mesh looks a lot better as well, and this has this blacked out package on it. Looks really cool. But the overall identity of this car, it feels like maybe Lincoln has lost a little bit of their identity with this new design, even though it looks very clean and very sharp in the front end compared to the old one, which felt a little softer but still a beautiful design. This feels a lot sharper, and it's interesting. So I can look at this front end and I see a bunch of different cars melted in together. For example, as I said, this is like a Ford Mach-E down here in these corners. The headlights remind me a lot of the Cadillac CT4 and the CT5 for some reason. I feel like the implementation here is very similar to those cars, and the rest feels like it's pretty anonymous. I can't really put my finger on that this is a Lincoln specifically if it wasn't for this badge in the middle. A couple of things that I really like about this front end is that we have this looks like a daytime running lights down here, and it continues across and into the grille, extending the width visually of the front end of the car. I like the sculpting on the hood as well. We have two lines here creating a little bit of a dip here in the middle, and we have one line here, another line here, creating some nice features in the front end of the grille. And the lower part right here continues the same mesh that we have in the main grille, so we have a connection between these two features we didn't have in the old one. You can see here we have bars going across like this, black ones, and in this case the grille is a completely different mesh and also in chrome. So I think this kind of cleans up the Nautilus design, but as I said, I feel like they maybe lost a little bit of their identity in the front view. But in the side view, this is a 100% Lincoln design. So let's have a look at that. Same thing here. I thought the old one just looked solid. It looks compact. I loved these creases that we have in both over the front axle and the rear, and it kind of fades in the middle, then comes back strong in each corner. And then we have the packaging on this. The proportions look solid. The wheels are in the exact right position. The greenhouse sits a little bit too far forward in my opinion. I would like to move it back just a little bit to create more of a longer hood. And we have a very rounded front fascia looking at it like this from a side view. Overall, it's a very clean design. I also like that we have this roof spoiler up here creating the send-off for the roof line. But looking at the new one, same thing again. I feel like this is a mix of a bunch of different car manufacturer designs. And when I look at it like this, in this red with the blacked out roof up here, with the greenhouse being blacked out, this line, these two lines right here, these are 100% Range Rover to me, specifically Range Rover Sport. This looks like I don't know, a stretched out Range Rover Sport or something like that. One detail that I love that Lincoln reintroduced here that they had in the Lincoln Continental are these door handles. So this is a trademark Lincoln design feature, and I absolutely love how they implemented the door handles. You can see that they are here. They're barely visible. They're kind of in the same trim line as the trim piece that goes around the windows, and then it kind of bulges out, and that's your handle. So when you look at it from a side view like this, you can barely tell that there are any door handles there. And I think it's a beautiful little touch of how you can implement door handles in a very unique way. That makes the rest of the body very clean. There's no handle right here to mess up the surfacing, or in this case at the back of the passenger door. And overall, these lines are just beautiful in this car. We have this black graphic in the bottom eating in to the body mass and creating a thin waist for this car, even though it is actually higher than the previous generation, but it doesn't look like it, and that is thanks to this lower part right here, and you also have the top part being blacked out, reducing the mass of this car. If this were to be, for example, body color red, it would definitely look a lot taller than we have it here in this version with the blacked out package. And you can see these wheels, these are probably look like they are the 22-inch wheels, and they just look absolutely fantastic. I love the design of this. Again, very turbine and aviator inspired wheels, and I've always been a fan of Lincoln wheels going back maybe 10 years or so, because I think they make them really nice and it suits the overall branding of Lincoln. You can see that we still have some turbine inspired wheels on the old one up here, but look at the proportions of this thing. This feels a lot more boxy and structured than the old one. We have less of an angle in the back. This is more upright now, and the graphics in the back are also a lot simpler and going downwards, dragging the rear end down. We're gonna have a look at that in the next view, which is gonna be the rear view. And I also like this graphic that we have here that kind of cuts into the body. I'm usually not a fan of graphics like this that are just placed in the side of a very smooth and fluid surface and just have it be black contrasting with the body color. But in this case, I think it actually works. It looks really cool. Look at the front view here and the differences between the rounded previous Nautilus and how it became way more confident, I would say, and upright. This is almost 90 degrees in the front end compared to the roundedness that we have in the previous Nautilus. Same goes for the rear end. Very much upright design and philosophy all around this car. And I don't know, if I look at these just from a side view, this feels like a much more expensive and exclusive design than the previous generation, even though I really like the previous generation as well. Let's have a look at the rear view before we jump in to the interior. And again, I'm gonna say it all over here because it's a fact. That's what I see when I look at these cars all over from the front, side, and rear. They mentioned in the article that this looks a little bit like an Audi Q8, and now I kind of can't unsee that because I totally agree with this light bar in the rear end resembling the same light bar that we have in the Audi Q8. And then again, we have some more Range Rover feel in the rear end, specifically with the blacked out roof in the rear. But the graphics now, instead of pointing upwards like they did here, the key graphics of the taillights are having this upward angle. Now we have them in the complete opposite direction, which makes the rear end look more planted because these angles of the taillights drag down the rear end fenders and bring them closer to the ground, visually planting the volume of the car in the rear. Then we have this clean shoulder line dipping from a high point in the front and then sloping beautifully down. And this is also one of these Lincoln key lines that creates this movement forward. Specifically, if you just look at it from a side view like this, you can clearly see the line better here. I forgot to mention that when we talked about the side view. And here you can also see these very geniusly integrated door handles, how they're sticking out from the actual trim piece that goes around the window. We also have some graphics here with seems to be some stripes, and this comes back again in the taillights here. We also have them in the front headlights right here, as you can see. So we have a very nice congruent design all around this car. One interesting detail that I think is a new trend that we're starting to come upon now is to hide the exhaust pipes, which if it is an internal combustion engine and if it has any sort of sporty attributes to it, I would want to see the exhaust pipes like we have in the previous generation of the Nautilus. Unfortunately, they're covered here. We have some trim piece that kind of resembles exhaust pipes down here, but still I would definitely prefer to have this diffuser go down all the way and then house the pipes down here in some way, similar to what we have in the previous generation. Now let's have a look at this new interior. So this is where I'm a little bit confused about the new interior, because I think the main reason why I'm confused is because I don't know how it works 100%. So you see this, we have a massive curve going across the entire dash, going in from the driver's side all over the dash into the passenger side, and within this we have two big screens, very panoramic looking screens right here for the gauge cluster, and then I guess this is just some sort of info screen, because as I said, if you sit and drive here, if you have your head here, you have your shoulders here, you don't want to reach all the way to this point to try and kind of fiddle around with whatever you need, especially when you're driving. So I guess this is maybe the only screen that's actually a touch screen, and the rest up here are just info screens that show you the information that you need. I'm not 100% sure, but it wouldn't make sense to have this be a touchscreen because it feels so unnatural to reach all the way across this landing strip like that we have right here to reach that screen. And then we do have some physical buttons still right here. It doesn't seem like a lot of them. I'm not sure if the climate seems to be a touchscreen here. We can see the climate displayed right there on the screens. I do like these integrations of the speaker. Looks very high-end. I'm not sure how it looked in the previous. Definitely did not look as premium as it does right now. But if I were to pick between these two interiors, I really like the old one, as I'm sure you know by now, because this has a clear housing for the gauge cluster. We have a nice display in here. Looks like about 10 inches or something like that. This could have been integrated better, but I'm not sure if this integration is the right way to go. This actually reminds me, I think it is, of the first Toyota Prius, and the same integration we have with the speedometer sitting way in front of you in this little slot in the dash close to the windshield. This feels like a very similar solution to that, but I'm not sure what you would use this surface for. It feels like just dead space because you can't really put stuff here. They're gonna slide around all over the place because there are no shelves or edges to this landing strip in the middle. So I'm not sure if this is a good design. Again, I think I need to experience it myself to kind of get a hang of how this interior works. Steering wheel, I do prefer the old one as well. We have a 3-spoke, nice centerpiece and nicely stylized here with this chamfer. Beautifully done. The new one looks a little too almost EV-ish to me. I'm not a huge fan of 2-spoke wheel designs like this. I always want to have a solid foundation for the wheel, so add something like this at the bottom to create a more sporty look, and also overall just balance out the wheel spokes. And I don't know, it just feels better to have a 3rd spoke, or maybe 4 even, going down like this. It also has an interesting shape to it. This is a round steering wheel, and this feels way more oval, almost like a square, rounded off rectangle. I don't know about this interior. Let me know what you think about it. Do you prefer the old one, or do you prefer this new Prius 2024 upgraded interior from the 1st generation Prius? Let me know in the comments below.